listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Radio's authority on the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology, celebrating 25 years of broadcasting. Broadcasting around the world and to the great beyond.
The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome to the X-Zone, everyone. We're back here on the Mutual Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, X-Zone Broadcast Network, and IPBN Radio Network. If you'd like to send me an email, xzone at xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV. And you can always find out what we've been up to by going to our website at www.xzonerradio.com. One of the most interesting topics that we talk about here on the X-Zone, based on the response that we get from you, the listener, is Bigfoot. Whether we're talking about the elusive Bigfoot film that has been rocking the Bigfoot industry for, oh my gosh, nearly as long as Roswell. Well, yeah, pretty well much. Whether there is a connection between Bigfoot and UFOs. The question still remains, is Bigfoot real? After all, nobody has ever produced a cadaver of a Bigfoot. So what are we basing the belief in the existence of Bigfoot on? There are a number of researchers out there who dedicate their off time, their available time, to finding Bigfoot, to solving this mystery that has plagued so many people out there because they believe there is a Bigfoot. Some people hear him. Some people feel him. Very few people grab a glimpse of him. Who is Bigfoot? What is Bigfoot? There are so many questions that need to be answered. And my guest this hour is a gentleman we've had the pleasure of having on the show before. His name is Henry May IV. And he is with the Southeast Sasquatch Association. And you can find out more about them on their Facebook page, which is Southeast-Sasquatch-Association. Joining me now is Henry B. May the 4th. And Henry, welcome back to the X Zone. Great having you with us.
Thank you, Rob. It's a pleasure to be back.
Tell me, my friend, are there any new startling stories about Bigfoot sightings? What's new in the world of Bigfoot?
Well, since I've been on the show, oh my goodness, there have been so many developments. You've probably heard about some of them.
Mm-hmm.
We had the fellow Justin Smeja, who claimed that he shot 2 Sasquatches, claimed that he killed an infant or a young Sasquatch and
Mm-hmm.
buried it, and waited about 3 weeks to go back, and he retrieved what appeared to be, well, for lack of a better term, it's been called a Bigfoot steak. And that has been tested. It was tested by well-known DNA geneticist Dr. Brian Sykes, and it turned out to be from bear.
Oh, wow.
And it turned out it was buried in snow, so because they had a snowstorm there in the Sierras.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, I mentioned Dr. Sykes. He conducted a DNA study of several hair samples that were sent to him by various individuals here in the United States, and also from Russia and from the Himalayas, and including the Yeti. And he determined that he actually made an interesting discovery that there was an ancient species of polar bear hybrid living in the Himalayas.
Mm-hmm.
He discovered this through his DNA research. Most of the DNA that he received turned out to be from more mundane animals: horses, cows, bears, raccoons, even porcupines, of all things. And but he also did some studies on the unusual case of Zana. Zana was this hairy creature which had been taken captive by a farmer in Russia. And it was free to roam the house. It never living in the house, always stayed outside. It was never learned to speak, never did learn to do anything like that. And he conducted DNA testing on her son.
All right, what we're going to do here, my friend, is have a bit of a cliffhanger. I have to take my break. Please stand by. Great having you back with us, Henry. Exonation, my guest this hour is Henry B. May the 4th, and the Facebook page is facebook.com/Southeast-Sasquatch-Association. Henry and I return on the other side of this break. Bigfoot is the topic this hour here in the X Zone, with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away. Afterlife expert Roberta Grimes was the first one to say that dying can be fun. Now her best-selling book, The Fun of Dying, is available in stores worldwide. So if you wonder whether death ends life, how it feels to die, or what heaven might be like, The Fun of Dying was written for you. And if you have always been afraid of death, or if you worry that your life has no meaning, let The Fun of Dying ease your fears and bring new meaning to your life. Nothing said in The Fun of Dying is based on the teachings of any religion. Instead, Roberta draws on evidence to explain how death happens, how it feels, and what comes next. A lot of the best death-related evidence was produced in the first half of the 20th century. When it is put together with recent discoveries, it tells a consistent and amazing story. Roberta Grimes blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Her wonderful book, The Fun of Dying, is available on Amazon and at stores worldwide wherever books are sold. You're listening to the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
While science pursues fact, magic accesses the quantum level, bridging random facts to form truth. As long as science and magic remain separate and polarized, the truth cannot be known. I'm Wilda Wieka. Join me on the Science of Magic radio program dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. During each episode, I'll be speaking with experienced and respected scientists and mystics. From astrologers to astronomers, from medical doctors to shaman, the scientific method to dowsing and intuition, we will weave together information from seemingly divergent practices to promote unity and enlightenment. Join me, Wilda Wieka, and the Science of Magic right here on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. For more information, visit www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Starr began to demonstrate a metaphysical connection to the spirit world as a little girl. Her family noticed the connection, but it was a great-grandmother who told the family that Linnea was indeed gifted. The great-grandmother, who was also gifted, felt that Linnea had indeed inherited these attributes. It has been noticed that oftentimes such things are passed down through the generations. Linnea was also born with a caul, a thin white membrane across a newborn's face. Legend has it that if the baby is born with this caul, the child will have second sight, or what we call psychic abilities. Linnea Starr does past, present, and future, and has the gift of prophecy. It is written within scriptures that if you are able to give factual information, and prophecies indeed come true, the gift indeed comes from the divine realm. Linnea Starr does large interactive groups as well as private gatherings. For more information on Linnea Starr or to contact Linnea for a one-on-one consultation, visit her website at www.linneastar.com. That's www.linneastar.com. Bigfoot is the topic of the hour. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X-Zone. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Henry B. May IV is our special guest. And on Facebook, his Facebook page is Southeast Sasquatch Association. All right, Henry, we were talking about this Bigfoot that sounded like it was like a pet?
Yes. That was Zana, and she would do different, we call it, chores around the house. I mean, she would help out the farmer and everything and things like that. And they even had, sexual relations, and that actually resulted in several children, including, there was one named Tvit, and his skull was found by Igor Burtsev back in the early 70s. And Dr. Brian Sykes had a tooth from that skull tested, because we don't have any DNA from Zana. Nobody's ever been able to find any remains of Zana to this day. But they had her son, and they tested the tooth, and interestingly enough, Zana was not from Russia. Her DNA roots were all the way from Africa, which I found interesting. So how do they... Oh, go ahead, Rob.
No, I was just going to say, years ago, about 20 years ago, I remember having Lloyd Pye on the show. And he was telling us about Bigfoot or Sasquatch, that there was a family that actually had royal blood, or the blood of the Tsar, in them, and they were Bigfoot hybrids.
I've heard that as well.
Yeah.
Yes. It makes you wonder. I mean,
sure does.
Well, we also have the legend of Gilgamesh, who had a friend named Enkidu, who was a hairy creature. So, and then these legends they go back into and some of them are legends, and some of them may have basis in fact. So who knows?
So what happened with the testing of this of the tooth? It was discovered that the DNA was traced back to Africa instead of Russia. So what significance is this?
Well, it may have to do with that Zana might have been a slave of some kind, rather than just some creature that was found and caught in the woods in Russia. So,
is it possible, Henry, that Zana was nothing more than a pure African who, the Africans were kidnapped and brought as slaves throughout the world, unfortunately. Is it possible that she was just an ordinary human being?
It's entirely possible. I mean, there is a disease called hypertrichosis, in which humans can grow an excessive amount of body hair.
Right.
So maybe that's what she was. I don't know. But yeah, I would recommend reading Dr. Brian Sykes' book. I think it's Bigfoot, Yeti, and the Neanderthal Enigma. It's kind of it's a reprinting of a previous book that he published last year. So,
but
it's really fascinating.
That is an interesting hypothesis. Could Bigfoot have been a Neanderthal?
Yes, and a lot of the Russian scientists have come up with that they've examined that possibility of what the Sasquatches might be in their native country.
Right.
They're not really so sure as far as the United States or Asia or the Himalayas or other areas of the world. So, but who knows?
So, what other finds has research developed or brought forth when it comes to establishing the existence of Bigfoot or the origins of Bigfoot?
Well, I mean, there's lots of speculation that's been going on in the Bigfoot field. A lot of people have. I have to say, there haven't been any. There have really not been many groundbreaking discoveries. I think we've had. I think we've had a lot of spinning our wheels and things like that. I mean, because we still don't have we don't have absolute proof of their existence as of yet. I mean, yes, we have the foot dermal ridges. We have the hair and scat samples, and we have all this, but there is no absolute proof. And I have to say that visual evidence, such as films and videos, as good as they may be, they are not going to be enough to convince the scientists or the skeptics. I mean, you would have to have National Geographic quality style footage. And even then, I'm not so sure that would be convincing enough. So,
what about the latest the latest on the Patterson Gimlin film of Bigfoot? Is that film real, Henry, or is it a well-perpetrated hoax? Because Patterson was known for his notoriety. Well,
I mean, you and I have discussed this before, and I have to say I've seen several analyses of it. The more recent analysis has been done by a fellow named Bill Munns, who has he is a retired special effects creature suit maker in Hollywood, and he wrote a book a couple of years ago called When Roger Met Patty, and he systematically showed how it could not have been a person in a suit, and that person in a suit, there would not have been a suit sophisticated enough at that time to determine that, yes, it was the thing is, Bill pointed out that Roger Patterson stood and took the film. He kept the film on the creature rather than rather than trying to focus away from it. I mean, you wouldn't think a hoaxer would do something like that. I mean, but as far as the PG film, I mean, personally, I think the subject of the film, I think the film is real.
Right.
But as far as the subject of the film, that's what a lot of people have a debate about, and I'm thoroughly convinced the subject is real. That it's a real Sasquatch. I mean, could I be wrong? Of course.
Sure. But the question, the question is, going back, what year was that? 65 or 63?
1967. It'll be 50 years next year.
Okay, so it's from 67 until 2016, with all the modern technology available on everyone's cell phone, there still isn't any other footage of Bigfoot. Don't you find that strange?
Actually, yes, I do. I do find that strange.
Yeah.
Although one of the explanations could be, well, people are so startled by what they see that they don't have time to react. I mean, although in recent years there have been some interesting photos, interesting videos that have been taken with cell phone cameras. Do they really prove anything? No. I mean, but they're compelling nonetheless. Again, it goes back to credibility. It goes back to perception of video and film. I mean, obviously these days, video and film and even photos can be manipulated quite easily.
Sure. If we can capture great apes, if we can capture chimpanzees, if we can capture orangutans, how come we can't capture, live capture, a Bigfoot?
Oh boy, yeah, that's an interesting question, and I think it's probably because we really don't have the funding necessary. There's one individual, name is Wally Herson.
Mm-hmm.
He was once a benefactor for the Bigfoot Field Researchers organization, and he is now backing the Olympic project. But he's not backing them to capture a Sasquatch. He's backing them. He's giving them equipment such as night vision equipment and game cameras, things like that. They're hoping to maybe make a capture on film, or maybe make a capture on still photography.
Mm-hmm.
So there's really no concentrated effort right now by anyone to try and make a live capture. Well, other than, well, I won't say his name, but his initials are TB. And we know that we know what his motivations are. So
yeah, it's not as if we're talking about Tom Biscardi.
Oh no, not at all.
Oh no, not at all. Because after all, he would never put a mannequin in a freezer and call it a Bigfoot. Now, would he?
No, never.
Man, talk about scum of the earth. My God. Yeah, let's form a hoax. Let's form a Bigfoot hoax. Tom, get over here. We need you. Yeah, no. This guy here, I remember when he first started his Bigfoot adventures. He seemed to be pretty down to earth, but then as his notoriety got out there, and I guess he thought that he could walk on water and part the Red Sea and everything else, but it certainly backfired on him every time. And even with the money he claims he has backing him, he still hasn't found anything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, besides the stuff in the freezer.
Right.
And I'm sure if I went into the freezer in our home, I'd find some stuff I didn't know what it was. So who might argue? Hey, listen, Henry, you and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Please stand by. Exonation, Henry May the 4th is our special guest this hour. He is a good friend of the Exxon, and we're talking about Bigfoot. Send me an email. Are you a skeptic or are you a believer? Exxon at exxonradiotv.com. That is the very simple email address that we have had for 20 some odd years. So there you go, Exxon at exxonradiotv.com. And if you'd like to find out more about Henry May and his group, they're on Facebook, /Southeast Sasquatch Association. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell. My very special guest this hour, Henry B. May IV, and I will return on the other side of this break as we continue investigating the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology right here in the X-Zone, Monday through Friday from 6 p.m. Eastern until 10 p.m. Eastern on the Mutual Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, X-Zone Broadcast Network, and the all-new IPBN Radio Network. Don't go away.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money and abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right, transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Thomas Jefferson was a Burgess of 27 when he met Martha Wales Skelton, a 22-year-old widowed heiress who was fondly called Patty by her family. They were married on January the 1st, 1772, and they took up residence in a cabin on the building site on top of a Virginia mountain that Thomas had named Monticello. As Thomas and Patty slowly built their first version of the great house at Monticello, the Revolutionary War was heating up. Patty, with difficulty, bore 5 children, but only 2 girls survived. Thomas's political career developed to the point where he was often away from home, but after he authored and signed the Declaration of Independence in Philadelphia, he resolved never again to leave his wife. He was elected the governor of Virginia, just as that state became the Revolution's last battleground. The Revolutionary War ended in 1781, and Thomas gladly retired altogether to my family, my farm, and my books. But Patty continued to want to bear her treasured husband a son, and late in the summer of 1782, she died of kidney failure at the age of 33, 4 months after having borne yet another girl. Thomas was so devastated by her death that he never remarried. He mourned her for the rest of his life, even as he helped to frame the peace in France and then became the first Secretary of State, the second Vice President, and the third President of the United States. This story is true. Thomas Jefferson was such an obsessive letter writer and record keeper that we know where he was and what he was doing nearly every day of his adult life. Every significant thing he says in My Thomas comes from his contemporary writings. My Thomas by Roberta Grimes is now available at Barnes & Noble, Costco, Target, Books A Million, Hudson Booksellers, Kmart, Walmart, Sam's Club, Walgreens, CVS, and online at Amazon.com. You can visit Roberta Grimes online at www.robertagrimes.com.
The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State-certified occupational school, training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com.
Unwilling to be the government's deadly assassin, gifted psychic Kahara Mitchell went AWOL and ended up buried under rubble in the wake of a great tsunami. She regained consciousness far from Earth on the medical ship of a Daguerrean intergalactic fleet. Has she been rescued or abducted by aliens? The Chalice of Carrie, Kahira O'Donnell's latest paranormal science fiction romance, is the passionate story of an Earth woman and her destined mates, twin kings from another galaxy. Kahara uses her gifts fighting alongside Lords Rom and Ra in a war that will determine the destiny of galaxies. The Chalice of Carrie by Kahira O'Donnell is now available at KahiraO'Donnell.com or at Amazon.com. You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. What Happened in Benghazi is revealed by Nicholas Genix, author of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. He informs the American people that President Obama deceived them by advocating a strong foreign policy prior to the 2012 presidential election, and Hillary Clinton supported this deception. As the title infers, there is a connection between Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. Ample evidence informs Americans that Obama's early indoctrination in the Quran developed an affinity for Islam, why the Quran is the source of discontent in many countries, and why the Obama foreign policy deception led to poor military action and caused the loss of American lives in Benghazi. Genix provides 36 questions for the Select Committee on Benghazi to validate if Americans are justified to mistrust President Obama and Hillary Clinton. An overview of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi is presented on the website www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com. Annie Callahan, dedicated to negotiating a position for Earth within the Daguerrean Coalition, had trained for 3 years to become an Earth ambassador. Yet, the very eve of her arrival at the capital ruling planet, she is claimed as destined mate to an oversized, mating-maddened vamp who swears he will never release her. Lord Aztaran, king of the Macian sector, has waited over 900 years for his destined mate. Having found her as an alpha vamp, he is unable to relinquish Annie, virtually holding her hostage until he can claim her. Yet Macians cannot survive without their mate's love. How could he strip her of her citizenship, her ambassadorship, and her freedom and expect to win her heart? With All That I Am by Kahira O'Donnell is the latest book in this exciting series, The Daguerrean Chronicles, guaranteed to keep readers coming back for more. With All That I Am by Kahira O'Donnell is available on Amazon.com and KahiraO'Donnell.com. Henry B. May is my special guest this hour, X-Zone Nation. We're talking about Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti, my mother-in-law. They all fit in the same category. If you'd like to find out more about Henry, his Facebook page is Southeast Sasquatch Association. First of all, Henry, always great having you back here in the X-Zone. And I was wondering if you could give our listeners the history, as you know it, of Bigfoot.
Okay, well, the history goes all the way back to. It actually stems. I mean, there have been sightings, especially. Well, there have been sightings all over the United States. There have been newspaper accounts of wild men, hairy men, and gorillas, things like that. And this was pre-1958. There was a creature in Canada that had been seen, and nobody knew really what to name it, although the Native Americans were familiar with it for years. So there was a teacher on an Indian reservation. His name was J.W. Burns, and he came up with. He noticed that some tribes were calling it, especially the Chehalis tribe was calling it Sasquatch and things like that. And he thought, well, it needs more of an anglicized name, so he came up with the name Sasquatch, and that's where we got the name Sasquatch from. There was, like I said, a more anglicized version of Sasquatch. And there were sightings for years. Nobody really knew what this thing was. There were parties, posses that would try and hunt it down, things like that, because this was something that was unknown. They were puzzled by it. They wanted to know more about it. And then when the creature we now know as Bigfoot really came into the popular lexicon in 1958, when several footprints were found around the road construction site in Northern California in Humboldt County. And bulldozer operator named Jerry Crew, he was told by a friend who was a taxidermist named Bob Titmus. He gave him instructions, he gave him some plaster on how to cast a footprint. So Jerry Crew cast 2 footprints, and his photo was taken for one of the local papers. I think it was either Eureka Times Standard or maybe in the other local paper. But the picture and the story also got the attention of the AP wire. They put out the story nationwide, and then it became worldwide. And the headline read, "New Sasquatch Found. It's called Bigfoot." And that's where the name came from. The name stuck. And it was a newspaper reporter named Edgerton Gully who actually got who actually coined the phrase Bigfoot for the creatures. So, and there were several footprints found, and then prominent scientist named Ivan T. Sanderson wrote an article for True Magazine, December 1959, called "Abominable Snowmen Are Here." And he was describing the events that occurred in Northern California. And it got the attention of a young rodeo rider named Roger Patterson. And Roger Patterson sort of dedicated the rest of his life to looking for these creatures. And he did a lot of searching in and around the Mount St. Helens area for several years, looking for evidence and things like that. Sometimes he would find footprints, and he would cast them. He was told about some footprints that were found. He was in the Bluff Creek area in 1963. Although in his book, "The Abominable Snowmen of America Really Exist," says 1964. And there was a timber cruiser named Pat Graves who told him about these footprints. He went and he casted 2 of them, and I actually have a copy of one of those, footprint casts. And this was shortly before there was a massive flood in the Bluff Creek area, which occurred in 1954, which rerouted the creek, rerouted Bluff Creek. But see, before Roger Patterson, a fellow named Tom Slick had been sponsoring expeditions in the Himalayas to look for the Yeti. And he worked with an individual named Peter Burns, who was he was a big game hunter at that time, and they looked for the Yeti in the Himalayas, and then Tom Slick decided to fund a search for Sasquatch. He heard about Bigfoot, so he, in the late 50s, he began this search in Northern California and hired several individuals to try and help him out with that. They were unsuccessful, of course. And unfortunately, Tom Slick was killed in a plane. His plane broke up over Montana in 1952. So, but Tom Slick, he was not only interested in Bigfoot, he was also interested in things like giant salamanders, which have been rumored to live in Northern California for years and things of that nature. So, eventually, the history came to where Roger Patterson was figuring, well, there's got to be some way to try and maybe get some footage of some footprint. He really wasn't out there looking for footage of the Sasquatch itself. So, in early October of '67, he and Bob Gimlin traveled to Northern California. They were there for 3 weeks, and eventually that's when we got the famous footage. And, of course, that sparked debate and intense debate at times ever since. And that's just some of the more historical stuff that's happened. And then the fellow you mentioned to me before we went on the air, Robert W. Morgan, began looking into it in 1959. Now, he had a sighting in Mason County, Washington, 1957. As has been documented here on the X Zone. And he was one of the early pioneers searching for the creatures. And then there was some interesting events happening in a little town called Falk, Arkansas. An individual named Smokey Crabtree, who just recently passed away. His son had seen a creature in 1965, and was pretty freaked out by it. Told his father about it, and his father believed him. And a lot of people have been seeing this thing around the Falk area. And there was a movie made in 1972 called The Legend of Boggy Creek. And Smokey was a consultant on that movie. And also, he actually allowed Charles B. Pierce to film some of it on his property. So that has become kind of the most well-known cryptozoology movie ever. And a lot of Bigfooters, they got into the subject because of that very movie. So,
what, to your knowledge, part does Bob Hieronymus play in this entire scenario? According to some, Bob Hieronymus claims to have been the person inside of the Bigfoot suit, and that the entire Bigfoot film that Roger Patterson filmed was a great hoax.
Yes, I'm well familiar with the whole Bob Hieronymus story.
What is your take on it?
Well, yeah, and I'm going to be honest. You know, I think to me, he just doesn't have any credibility because he doesn't know how to get to the film site. He's changed his stories so many times as to what the suit was made of, how many pieces was it in. And he just, to me, he has no credibility. I mean, but I'm not going to tell somebody who believes him, well, you're wrong. I mean, if people, I can't control what people think. If they want to believe him, that's their prerogative.
So where do you think the best next step in the investigation into the existence of Bigfoot should be?
Well, I think Bigfooters going to need to step up their game. I think that there needs to be better evidence collection. I think that there needs to be a CSI type approach taken to retrieving the evidence. Don't handle stuff with your bare hands.
Right.
Don't. If you have to wear like a painter's mask so you don't breathe on on the hair or whatever you find. Use paper bags, not plastic bags. Use paper bags to put hair or scat in. There's actually a very excellent field guide by Dr. Jeff Meldrum. It's called the Sasquatch Field Guide. And he tells you basically, he gives characteristics of these creatures and footprint anatomy and things like that. But he also tells you how to preserve evidence and also how to cast footprints. So,
Henry,
and also you can't. Yeah,
I was going to ask you, Henry. You know, like with all the Forest Service people that are out in the woods every day, you've got the state troopers, you've got lumberjacks, you have, my gosh, people who go into the woods looking for Sasquatch. How come there hasn't been any more footage, any more photographs? How come the smoking gun has not been found? How come we haven't found the cadaver of a Bigfoot, whether it's on the highway after being schmucked by a logging truck, or whether it's in the forest for, you know, having just passed away from natural causes?
Well, that's an excellent question, and I wonder about it myself. I wonder why one has not been run over or hit, as you mentioned, hit with a logging truck, and I can't explain if. I'm wondering, how careful they are. I mean, are they just very careful they don't get hit by logging trucks? Are they aware enough to know that if they get hit by a logging truck, that's it for them? They're dead. As far as why we don't find corpses in the forest, I think it's because nature takes care of its own, and I think that. There are so many creatures in the forest that can dispose of any sort of corpses. We don't find corpses of bears that die natural death very often. We don't find mountain lions.
But you see, what you're saying is you said the key word, not very often, but they have been found.
Right. Yes. I agree. They have been found.
Yeah.
I mean, it's rare, but it does happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, but Ivan T. Sanderson said that nature takes care of its own and damn fast. So, I mean, there's all kinds of scavengers in the forest. I mean, that will take care of a corpse. And when you get down to things like teeth, toenails, and bones, there's deer mice, porcupine that will gnaw on the bones of the calcium source.
Let me ask you this question, Henry. If Bigfoot is a hominid, a descendant of a human being, why are we not protecting it?
Well, I think you have to protect what you can prove. And because this creature has not been, well, I shouldn't say this creature because more than one. But I think this species has not been protected because it would be like protecting leprechauns or unicorns, things like that, according to some. Now, there are a couple of I guess, laws on the books. One is in Skamania County, Washington, which was passed in 1969, that any wanton slaying or harassment or whatever of a Sasquatch in that county would result in $10,000 fine and 5 years in prison. It was amended in 1984 to where the fine is much less and you won't spend much time in prison. There's also a law in Whitehall, New York, which ostensibly protects the Sasquatch that live in that area. So, but those are the only two laws that I know of in the United States that ostensibly protect these creatures. But I don't think a lot of lawmakers want to take the chance of trying to protect what is essentially a mythical species.
Then if it's a mythical species, why are so many of you such ardent believers that Bigfoot is real?
Well, I mean, some of us have actually seen these creatures.
Have you seen it?
So I have had 2 sightings.
What was it like?
And it was very surreal. It's very surreal to see something that you're looking at it, and your brain doesn't register right away what you're looking at. You go through all the possibilities of what this could be. Could it be a person in a suit? Could it be a bear? Could it be hallucination? Could it be maybe wanting to see this creature? There are some who believe that they are a tulpa, that these creatures are tulpas, that they're in your mind. But no, I don't agree with that. I don't believe that at all. That they're not. I don't think they're just in your mind, because if they were, everybody would probably see one. But it's a surreal moment. To some witnesses, it's traumatic. They have trouble sleeping at night. They sleep with the lights on.
Mm-hmm.
And it really affects people in different ways, I think.
All right, Henry, stand by, my friend. You and I have to take our final break for this hour. X-Zone Nation, Henry May is our special guest. www.facebook.com/Southeast-Sasquatch-Association. And Henry and I will return on the other side of this break as we wrap up this hour here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, talking about Bigfoot.
Little children aren't the only ones afraid of the dark. Millions of soldiers return from war zones with PTSD, anger, frustration, fear, and loneliness, much of which surfaces during the darkness of the night. You have the chance to change the lives of these American heroes. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us provides free MP3 players for these men and women. With a list of 3 million songs in 16 different styles, 100,000 audiobooks, and 30,000 old-time radio programs, every veteran can find something to soothe and comfort them at no cost. All our players contain an 8-hour audio program designed to help veterans fall asleep. With 1,500 plus vets now participating, it's our goal to deliver 10,000 audio players this year. Go to our website at songsandstoriesforsoldiers.us. Help us help a veteran make it through the night.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. If you enjoy reading a good mystery with a touch of the paranormal, then you'll love From Out of the Woodwork by William S. Peckham. Sean Kennedy, a Toronto contractor, buys derelict houses, guts them, and turns them into multi-family dwellings. When Sean buys 29 Livery Lane, a century house in ruins, and starts the renovation, the house fights back. He is visited by ghosts of owners past. His visions are triggered by touching an oak mantle, reading a faded letter, opening an old locket, or opening a brand new casket in the basement.
These visions will take you on a trip across southern Ontario from Niagara Falls to Toronto to Kingston. From Out of the Woodwork is now available in paperback and on your favorite electronic reader. To order your copy of From Out of the Woodwork, go to www.williamspeckham.com. That's www.williamspeckham.com. Exonation, Henry B. May IV is our special guest. Now, to find out more about Henry and his Sasquatch Association, just go to facebook.com/Southeast-Sasquatch-Association. First of all, Henry, thank you so much for coming on the show. Always a great pleasure talking to you. But I have to ask you, what are your final thoughts to the Exonation tonight about Bigfoot?
Well, all I can say is that people need to keep looking. Don't give up. I was very encouraged to see a lot of young people. They're involved and interested in it. When I was at the Ohio Bigfoot Conference this past weekend, a lot of them were. They seem to be very, very determined. And I was young when I started my interest in it, so it's always great to see the younger generation getting involved, getting interested in the subject. So, I think that even if our generation doesn't get the job done, I think the younger generation, the next generation, has a good shot. I really do. So,
what are your tips for people who may be listening tonight and say, "Hey, listen, I want to go into the forest and try and find Bigfoot"? What should they do? What shouldn't they do?
Be skeptical of everything. Do not say immediately, "Oh, I heard a strange sound. It was a Sasquatch." Because foxes and raccoons and birds and all kinds of critters can make all kinds of interesting noises. So do not immediately take everything at face value and say, "Oh, yeah, that's a Sasquatch." Be skeptical. If you see a footprint, it could be a double bear step. If you see tree breaks, that could be wind, it could be snow damage, could be anything. So don't immediately say everything is Sasquatch. I would say just be very careful what you call evidence, what you call proof, and things like that. Make sure you have a camera. Make sure you have sound recording equipment, and you have to have the right materials when you're out there. Casting material. Make sure you have a good survival kit, because you can be out there for weeks at a time. So that's the things that I would recommend.
Henry, what is the best book for people to look for and buy?
Oh, goodness. Well, definitely, if I were to recommend one book, it would be a book by John Green, written in 1978, called Sasquatch, the Apes Among Us. And it's on Amazon. It was co-written by, it was published by Hancock House, and it is what you might call the Bigfoot Bible, and it's amazing book. It's almost 40 years old, but
wow.
Still the best book there is.
Hey, Henry, the time has come when you and I must say so long, but I want to thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. Always a pleasure talking to you. Keep the great work up, and give my very best to all the other Bigfoot enthusiasts out there, and let us know if anything new happens within the world of Bigfoot.
Sure thing.
Take care, buddy. Exonation, if you'd like to find out more about Henry B. May the 4th. On Facebook, it's /Southeast-Sasquatch-Association. I'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name is Rob McConnell. Don't go away.